let us continue our discussion. Cytos of Taxation. This is the place of taxation. Now, remember that we discussed the inherent limitations and we said that the taxing authority must have jurisdiction over the subject or object of taxation. This is territoriality, an inherent limitation. Now, situs or place or jurisdiction of taxation. Sometimes they pronounce this as Situs of Taxation. Parang virus lang yan, class. Okay, now, for income tax purposes, what is our situs? It depends. It may be the place where the income is earned, citizenship, or residence of the income earner. That is why we classify income taxpayers accordingly. For individuals, for corporations, estates and trusts, we classify according to this test. Now let us illustrate. Pedro and Maria Cruz, both Filipino citizens who are currently employed as marketing staff in BGC, Taguig City, with monthly salary of 30,000 pesos. 30,000 pesos each. Now, question. Determine whether the income is taxable in the Philippines. What would be our test of situs? The place where the income is earned, the residence, or even citizenship of the income earner. Now, Pedro and Maria Cruz are both Filipino citizens. And they earn this 30,000 pesos monthly compensation income in BGC Taguig, the service. The service or services were rendered in Taguig. And that means within the Philippines. Can we consider that the 30,000 pesos compensation income, monthly compensation income, subject to Philippine income tax? Yes. Our answer is yes. The Philippines has jurisdiction to tax that monthly compensation income. But of course, we will still discuss who are exempt. The minimum wage earners are exempt. If the total taxable income for the entire year did not exceed 250,000 pesos, it may happen that the taxpayer is also exempt. But taking this into consideration, the monthly compensation income of 30,000, following on the test of Situs, is subject to Philippine income tax. Now, second situation, Stanford is a U.S. citizen who sold his laptop to his Filipino friend Mang Tolites, who is also based in America, for a gain of $600. Is the $600 subject to Philippine income tax? Citizenship or residence of the income earner. Who is our seller? Stanford. And Stanford is a foreign national, a U.S. citizen. And then, considering the problem, resident in U.S. Residing in U.S. Now, the gain or the income derived by Stanford in America. Now, would that $600 gain from this sale subject to Philippine income tax? Following on our test of Situs, our answer is no. Now, Our answer is no. The place is of the income. It is not earned here in the Philippines, neither the citizenship or residence of the income earner. We failed on this test. Therefore, not subject to Philippine income tax. Business or occupation? What is our situs? The place where the business is conducted. The place where the occupation is practiced. Say that you are engaged in the practice of your profession, service. Where do you practice your profession? That is also a test. Or the place where the transaction took place. If the business or the transaction took place here in the Philippines, then that will be subject to tax. To Philippine income tax. Now, let us have this problem. Due to community quarantine, Ma'am Tolites was separated from work. Si Ma'am Tolites, no? Favorite ni Ma'am? I just remember Ma'am Tolites. Now, subsequently, he shifted to online selling of frozen products within the NCR. And he used his residence as his business address. He derives income from online selling. Yan ang fighting spirit ni Mang Tolites. Despite the pandemic and the crisis, still surviving. Determine whether the income is taxable in the Philippines. Place where the business is conducted. NCR, Philippines. Place where the transaction took place. Also in the Philippines. Therefore, subject to income tax here in the Philippines. Even if it is online, yes, of course. Online sellers are already required to register before the BAR and registered their business. Another case. Daniel, a Filipino, was contracted to work as English teacher in Japan. You know what class? We Filipinos, katagalogin ko na lang at baka may ibang lahi na manonood nito. Tayong mga Pilipino ay magaling daw sa Ingles. Compared to other ASEAN nationals of other ASEAN countries, we are good in English. Ayan ma'am, in English mo ma'am, and still they will understand. Kasi nga magaling daw tayo sa English. Ma'am, you are good in English? Yeah, right. Now, Daniel, a Filipino was contracted to work as English teacher in Japan, and he will be paid compensation for his services. Question, will that compensation be subject to Philippine income tax? We will see. This is occupation. Place where the occupation is practiced. That is being practiced in Japan. Practiced in Japan. He is rendering his service in Japan. Ma'am, Daniel is a Filipino citizen. But we can classify Daniel here as a non-resident citizen. That is taxable only from sources within. Question, is the source of income derived here in the Philippines? No. The income is derived in Japan. Therefore, it will not be subject to Philippine income tax. Real and tangible personal property. Now, what is our situs? The location of property. Now, We did not mention intangible personal property, but for intangible personal property, we have mobilia secundur personam, no? The domicile of the owner. Okay? Now, and then for gratuitous transfer of property, our test of Situs is either the residence or citizenship of the taxpayer or location of the property. And when we say gratuitous transfer of property, this is by donation. This will not be subject to income tax, no? Because gratuitous transfers or exclusions from gross income. Subject to donors or estate tax as the case may be. But now our test is residence or citizenship of the taxpayer, location of the property. Now, situation. Pedro owns a commercial building in Ortigas, Pasig City, which is being leased to various tenants. Is the rental income subject to income tax? Location of the property. The building is located in Pasig City. Would it be subject to tax here in the Philippines? Yes, of course. Now, another one. Jose, a Filipino residing in Canada, donated his lot located in San Juan, Metro Manila to his best friend, Danilo. Wow! No? The best friend is very lucky. No? Now, is this subject to donor's tax? Donor's tax is imposed on donations made during lifetime. Now, legally speaking, we call it as donation inter vivos. For gratuitous transfer, now, Jose is a Filipino o citizenship. Now, the property is located in San Juan, Metro Manila, located in the Philippines. Would it be subject to donor's tax? To Philippine donor's tax? Our answer is yes. Now, following the Cytos of Taxation. Let us distinguish tax evasion from tax avoidance. Now, tax evasion is also known as tax dodging. Tax dodging. This is illegal or fraudulent means to defeat or lessen the payment of tax. The legal means of legal means or way of lessening your tax is tax evasion. Now, this can be perpetrated by fraud. Now, on the other hand, tax avoidance is also known as tax minimization. This is the legal or permissible means to reduce tax liability. The legal way is tax avoidance or tax minimization. The illegal way is tax evasion or tax dodging. Let us illustrate. The accountant of the taxpayer is using two versions of his books of accounts. One version for BIR purposes and the other version which provides for the actual financial information. Now, the intention here is to lessen the tax, income tax, business tax, that the taxpayer will be paying to the government. What is being done by the taxpayer? This is tax evasion. This is illegal means or way on how we lessen the tax that we will be paying. Tax evasion, otherwise known as tax dodging. You know what, na? In our jurisprudence, na, we have this so-called willful blindness doctrine. Eh? Now, the act or acts of your accountant, no? The accountant serve as your agent, no? Now, that is also imputed to the taxpayer, the willful blindness doctrine. Huh? You cannot say that you are not aware on what your accountant is doing. Huh? Then, I would advise you, if you are the businessman, to monitor your accountant. Hmm? Now, another one. Say na that we have this rich man. He approached a tax consultant. And then he asked that consultant on what would be the ways or means on how he can prevent the payment of onerous taxes. Now the consultant said, you invested in tax-exempt entities. Invested in tax-exempt entities. The rich man also asked the tax consultant, now sooner or later, I might die of COVID-19. Now, what would be the way or means on how I can lessen the payment of my estate tax? Again, the consultant said, you invested in a corporation because the valuation of the shares of stock of corporation is much lower compared to that of the actual valuation of real properties or personal properties. That is estate tax planning. Now, the taxpayer is doing what? Tax avoidance. Now, and this is legal or permissible means on how to minimize the payment of his taxes. Other forms of escape from taxation. Shifting. This is a transfer of burden of tax by the original payer or the one on whom the tax was assessed or imposed to another or someone else. It is possible only when there is an exchange of commodities. Capitalization. This is reduction in the price of the tax object equal to the capitalized value of future taxes which the purchaser expects to be called upon to pay. This occurs when the tax falls on an income-producing property. Transformation. The manufacturer or producer upon whom the tax has been imposed, fearing the loss of his market if he should add the tax to the price, pays the tax and endeavors to recoup himself by improving his process of production, thereby turning out his units of production at a lower cost.
Roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off, the mother sucker. Tear the roof off, the sucker. Tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off, the mother sucker. Tear the roof off, the sucker. Tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off, the mother sucker. Tear the roof off, the sucker. Tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the